In the dark annals of history, we find the tragic fate of Annas and Caiaphas, the Sadducees responsible for Jesus' death. We invite you to embark on a journey into the past, uncovering the secrets and intrigues that surrounded influential figures, their lives and actions that shaped a crucial chapter in human history. Through this account, we can reflect on valuable lessons. We invite you to share this message so that others can also learn from this story. Leave your like and share your thoughts in the comments below, creating a space for reflection and collective learning, exploring the events that have shaped our world. Annas emerged as a prominent figure during a crucial period in Jewish history, between 6 and 15 AD, when he was appointed high priest by the Roman governor Quirinius. His ascension to the highest office in Judaism was not only a matter of spiritual prestige, but also a demonstration of political power. However, his stay in office was interrupted by the Roman procurator Valerius, who removed him and gave the post to his son-in-law, Caiaphas. This episode not only reshaped the political-religious landscape of Jerusalem, but also began a family saga in the history of the high priesthood. Despite his removal from office, Annas did not lose his influence and saw several members of his family succeed him as high priests, thus consolidating his legacy and power within the Jewish religious hierarchy. The relationship between the Jewish religious leaders and the Roman authorities was complex and often tense. The strict control imposed by the central Roman government in Palestine left little room for local leaders, resulting in a delicate dynamic between religious and political interests. The Temple in Jerusalem, as a spiritual and religious center, was a focal point of this tension, with its symbolic and political importance being constantly disputed. Every year, thousands of pilgrims flocked to the temple to fulfill their religious duties, which gave the place a powerful significance not only for the Jews, but also for the Roman authorities, who saw it as an opportunity to consolidate their control over the region. In this context, both Annas and Caiaphas emerged as influential religious leaders, representing the interests of the powerful sect of the Sadducees. The Sadducees held different views of the scriptures compared to the Pharisees, another important Jewish sect. While the Pharisees believed in the resurrection of the dead and in a spiritual world, the Sadducees rejected such concepts, focusing on a more literal interpretation of the scriptures. In addition, the Sadducees were often associated with the wealthy class and held the most prominent positions under Roman rule. The fact that many high priests were Sadducees and dominated key positions in the Sanhedrin, the Jewish religious and political court, illustrates the power and influence of this sect within Jewish society at the time. Because they were Sadducees, Annas and Caiaphas were able to assume the position of high priests, which made them prominent figures in Jewish religious life, giving them power and authority over the affairs of the temple. The relationship between the Jewish religious leaders and the Roman religious leaders was complex and often tense. The Roman presence aroused a constant fear of rebellion and loss of privilege. To understand the actions and decisions of Annas and Caiaphas, especially in relation to their participation in the arrest and trial of Jesus, it is essential to consider the historical context. Let's continue to explore who Annas and Caiaphas were. Annas was appointed high priest in 6 AD during the government of Quirinius, the governor of Syria, and held the position until around 15 AD. During his term as high priest, Annas established a system of succession in his family, guaranteeing continuity and religious power. His control over the high priesthood gave him considerable influence in the Jerusalem temple, where he oversaw rituals, administered sacrifices, and enforced religious laws. This position not only highlighted him as a religious leader, but also as a political figure, since the temple exercised significant power and control over Jewish society. Annas also exercised control over the temple tax and the currency exchange. In Luke 19:45, we see that Jesus expelled them from the temple, accusing them of turning it into a den of thieves who profaned religion. The trade of the animal sellers and moneylenders in the temple was the most lucrative in the city. The Jewish Talmud records that the house of Annas was cursed for its wealth and lack of scruples, along with the corrupt leaders of the priesthood, whose presence contaminated the sanctuary. This is attributed to his conspiracies to plan persecutions. On the other hand, Caiaphas was married to Anna's daughter, and both families were wealthy and belonged to the aristocracy. Caiaphas was appointed high priest around 18 AD by Valerius Gratus, and his appointment marked a crucial point in the biblical narrative. Like his father-in-law Annas, Caiaphas took on a leading role in the Jerusalem temple and in the Jewish community in general. His relationship with Annas is interesting and significant. Although Annas no longer held the position of high priest at the time, his influence was still palpable. By marrying Anna's daughter, Caiaphas became part of a priestly dynasty that had considerable control over religious and political affairs in Judea. One of the famous phrases attributed to Caiaphas in the biblical narrative occurred after Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. The news of Lazarus' resurrection from the dead reached the council, and it was in this context that Caiaphas made the famous statement recorded in the Gospel of John 11:49-50. "You understand nothing. You do not realize that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should perish." The conviction that Jesus' death would prevent a revolt and protect the interests of the Jewish religious leadership is seen as a prophecy that Jesus would die not only for the nation, but also to gather the scattered children of God into a single community. This statement by Caiaphas is a significant turning point in the gospel narrative, showing how politics and religion were intertwined in the Jerusalem of the time, shaping the actions and decisions of the Jewish authorities. In the biblical story, after Caiaphas' statement, all the members of the council agreed to kill Jesus during his ministry. Tensions between Jesus and the Jewish religious leadership, represented mainly by Annas and Caiaphas, gradually increased. Jesus preached a religious reform that challenged some of the teachings and practices established by the religious leadership of the time, putting him in direct conflict with the religious authorities. In this context, Jesus was arrested and brought before the high priest for questioning. He was first brought before Annas and then Caiaphas, who was the high priest at the time. The interrogations represented a crucial point in the biblical narrative. During these interrogations, Annas and Caiaphas were looking for evidence against Jesus to support the charges of blasphemy and sedition. However, Jesus remained mostly silent, without offering a convincing defense. These interrogations culminated in the decision to send Jesus to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, to be tried and condemned. Annas and Caiaphas played an active role in the decision to accuse Jesus and in pushing for his condemnation to death. Their political and religious influence was fundamental to the subsequent crucifixion of Jesus on Golgotha. After the resurrection of Jesus Christ, Caiaphas refused to accept the evidence of his resurrection. For this reason, he arrested and tried to kill Peter and John. Later, he was also involved in the death of Stephen. Caiaphas also gave Saul permission to arrest all the Christians he found in Damascus. He played a significant role in the persecution of Jesus' followers, considering them a threat to the religious and political authority of the time. However, around 36 AD, Caiaphas was dismissed by Vitellius, the Roman governor of Syria. At the same time, Pilate was also deposed. According to reports, Caiaphas was brutally murdered and dragged away by the Romans during a Jewish revolt in 36 AD. The tomb of Caiaphas and his family was discovered in 1990 during the construction of a road in an ancient cave hidden in the hillsides of Jerusalem. Annas died after hitting his head on the walls, realizing that he had contributed to the Messiah's death. Furthermore, it is interesting to note that Annas' grandson, the son of Theophilus, was appointed high priest by a handshake in 65 AD, succeeding Jesus of Gamala, the last high priest before the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 AD. He was closely associated with the temple in Jerusalem. As we close this investigation, we are reminded of the lasting impact of the decisions and actions of these two men on history. Their roles in the narrative of Jesus' crucifixion are a testament to the complexities of life and the choices that shape destinies. Their lives and actions continue to resonate through the centuries, serving as a powerful reminder of the ramifications of our decisions and the complexity of intertwined faith and politics. Our hope is that this story will remind us of the importance of our own actions and decisions and how they can echo through time. We invite you to share this message so that others can learn from it too. Leave your like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's create a space for reflection and learning together, exploring the events that have shaped our world until the next meeting.